Let's just take this. What about wealth and poverty? Anything in wealth and poverty, if I say wealth, depending on your culture, your background, your own financial state, there are thousands of ideas about wealth. Some say it's wrong to have wealth. Others say, I wish I had wealth. Others say, where I live, in a 10-kilometer radius from us, we have people living in squatter camps. They have to actually queue for water, getting water from one tap in 25-liter bottles, living with, a squatter camp is just what it is. There's nothing there. They just live they just make up their homes from cardboards and whatever they can find. And on the other side, we get people that live in 25 million rand houses, 10 million rand houses, even 50 million rand houses. That's where they live. And that's just in a 10-kilometer radius. Not even, maybe 5-kilometer radius from where I live. So that's wealth and poverty on the two extremes for us where we live. And so the ideas about wealth and poverty are thousands of. What you're thinking about wealth or what you're thinking about poverty is from all the ideas that they exist in this life, you only have a few because of your background, because where you're coming from, because of the things that happened to you in your life. Maybe because of your parents or whatever the case may be, where you brought up, you only have a few ideas, and that's the wave of possibilities for your life. What you talk about, collapse that into one state. And so, where you find yourself right now is because you've talked about it long enough. That's why you're there. But the reason why you talked about it, you only had a few. Only have a few possibilities in your mind because of your background, because of what you've gone through. Out of all the thousands of ideas on wealth and poverty. Well, let's just take something. What about health and sickness? On health and sickness, there are thousands of ideas. There are some people, I've got books here, myself, that says, you can live, the human body is made for you to last 140 years. You can live. Then you've got on the other side, you've got people that say, I don't want to live that long. I don't want to live to 80 or 70. Why? You know what? My grandmother, I see how she suffered the last 15 years of her life, bedridden on her bed with cancer or whatever the case may be, and I've seen my mother or my father and whatever, and so your own point of reference and what you believe, you bring that in, you collapse it into one state, and that's your reality. That's what's going to happen. But there are these ideas about health and about sickness, thousands of it. For your life, there's only a few. That's the wave of possibilities. That's what you're thinking about health and sickness. That's where you think, you know what, in our family, they now prove, they can prove that you have a cancer gene, and they can prove with epigenetics, it's not about your genes, it's about what you think, what you believe, and your attitude. So you've got, always have these extremes about any subject. And so what you think about becomes the wave of possibility for your life. What you talk about is a strong measurement. You collapse it into that state. Whether it's clever or dumb, they've proven, taken just one of the lobes from the brain, that child can develop like a normal child, doing normal things just with one of the brain lobes. And then on the other side, you can believe, when you're old, your brain is not going to work anymore, and you're going to get Alzheimer's, and so forth and so forth. That's your wave of possibilities. What you're talking about is you're going to collapse it into that state. Then you get happily married or divorced. Happily married or divorced. You get people that are happily married for 60 years. Then you get people that believe, after 3 years, after 4 years, then you get the 7 year each. And after the first child, I don't know if that marriage is going to last so long. Those are the extremes. The ideas about happily married and divorce are thousands. The wave of possibility is what you believe about your marriage, what you believe about relationships, and you collapse that into one state by what you're saying. And that is with peace and turmoil, health, sickness, life and death, what you believe about life, what you believe about death. But this scripture I want to read to you in Deuteronomy 30, verse 15 and verse 19. It says this, God speaking to the nation of Israel. He says, see, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. These are the two poles. These are the positive and the negative. Because for everything, there's a positive and a negative. You get material and you get anti-material. You get a visible body, you get an invisible body. So you always get the poles. So God says, I set before you life and prosperity on the one side, and then I set before you death and destruction on the other side. In verse 19, he says this, and this day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. And then he says this, it's like you're giving them a hint. Now choose life. I said this before you. Now you choose life. How do we choose? With what do we choose that? How do we choose the life and death? Well, it's easy. You read Proverbs 18 verse 21. It says this. The tongue has the power of life and death. Remember Deuteronomy 30 verse 19. It says, this day I call the heavens and the earth as witness against you, that I set before you life and death, and curses, blessings and curses. Now choose life. How do we choose that? Proverbs 18:31. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So how do we choose? We choose it by what we speak, because the moment we speak about it, the moment we talk about it, we collapse all the possibilities of life and death, the possibilities of blessing and curses, the possibility of prosperity and destruction. We collapse it into one state, just like the quantum physicists that went there and says, let me check this out, because it cannot be a wave, it must be a particle. And the moment he said that and stood there and measured, it became a particle. And so the moment you speak about it, it becomes that one state for your life. So I want to end off with this, with a statement. The statement is as follows. Our lives reflect our inward reality. What we think and what we speak. So exactly where you find yourself now in life. Happily married or divorced. Healthy or sick. With wealth, prosperity, or with poverty. Now you can point your finger and you can try to blame anyone else, just like Eve did, just like Adam did. The fact of the matter is that our lives reflect our inward reality. That inward reality is what we think and what we speak. What we thought about marriage, what we thought about wealth, what we thought about sickness and health, what we thought about life and death, and then what we spoke about it, the words that we spoke. Because the tongue has the power of life and death. It is with what I speak that I collapse the wave of possibilities into one state. It's what I think that I draw from all the cloud of ideas. I draw from there a few possibilities in my mind. I begin to think and ponder and meditate about that. Then from all of that I choose, because of my background, because of the way I brought up, because of my point of reference, because of what happened to me, because of what I choose, I choose that, and I start to speak about it, and the moment I speak about it, it collapses into that one state. I've got to look at my life, my marriage, my relationships, my finances, my health, and say, where I'm finding myself now is because of what I think and what I speak. So the question is this, can we change it? Because the quantum physicist says the moment it has collapsed into that one state, you cannot take it back into a wave. You cannot. It's collapsed into a state of a particle to material. That's where it is right now. You cannot take it back. But they only believed that until 1989. And then someone came and says, no, you can actually reverse it. There's a way that you can reverse it. How do we do that? How do we change that back? Because I don't know about you, but there are things in my life that I don't like. And I've got to take responsibility and say, okay, I don't like it, but I can't blame anyone else except myself. I can't blame my parents, you know. Then you've got this this mentality of always blaming someone else, and this victim mentality. And then I'm a victim, and I'm not a victim because I am an adult. Children may be victims, but adults are never victims. You can choose. That's why God says, choose life and death. I can choose what I do want to do for now. But how do I change what I don't like in my life right now and bring it back into a wave of possibility and choose something else? Now in the next session, I will explain to you from science, first of all, and then explain to you exactly how we change that back. and now you can change that. Thank you for listening.